Hello, everybody. This is Demographia. I'm finally back and I'm ready to make some new videos. And so, since I'm done my series on all of the races of the world, now I can finally focus on easier, shorter videos, which means that I can probably upload more than once a month now. So, today I'll be talking about the races of the world. But wait a second, Micah, didn't you already make that? Yes, indeed, but I'm now going to make the races of the world according to the United States government. So the United States has a very interesting view on what the races of the world are. Now, according to the United States, five races are white people, black people, Asian people, Pacific Islanders, and Latinos slash Hispanics. So let's look. Well, let's start off with a map of the world, the racial map of the world according to the American government. So the blue is for white people, the yellow is for Asian people, the green is for black people, the brown is for Pacific Islanders, and the red is for Hispanics slash Latinos. So let's start off with white people. So, I mean, for the most part, it doesn't look too off. You have countries like the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and all of Europe. Wait, except Spain. Now, as we all know, Spanish people are not white at all. No, no, no. There's a clear difference between Spanish people and the rest of white people. As you can clearly tell, Spanish people are not white. They're Hispanics. So there's a huge difference there. But, as we all know though, Sudan is full of white people. In fact, Sudanese people are more white than Spanish people, as you can clearly tell from this picture. Now, white people doesn't just include Europe and, well, basically Europeans abroad. It also includes um, North Africans, Middle Easterners, and Central Asians. Because we all know Central Asians, Middle Easterners, and Europeans are all the same race. They're all white. We all know that Egyptians, Mauritanians, Iranians, or Kazakhs are all just as white as French, Italians, or Germans. And so clearly the United States has got something. No, of course, I'm just kidding here. This is really, really stupid. Now, first of all, there is really no racial difference between Spanish people and any other European people. They have the same skin color, the same genetics, the same facial features. They're the same race. Now, the reason why the United States has decided to distinguish them is something I'll talk about a little later on in this video, so pay attention. So, yeah, Middle Easterners are clearly not the same race as Europeans. They have different, they're slightly darker, they have slightly different facial features, and although there are definitely similarities between Middle Eastern and European people, I mean, it would be very hard for anyone to confuse an Egyptian person with a Swedish person. They're obviously not the same race. Um, and if you want to learn more about Middle Eastern people, then I would advise you to watch my video about Middle Eastern people. Also, Central Asians. Now, I know this one's a little more controversial. I personally find that Central Asians are a separate race. Many people would consider them part of the East Asian race, but either way, we everyone would agree that Central Asian people are not white. Although, yes, some do look very similar to Europeans, a lot of them don't. And Central Asians are mainly a mix of Middle Eastern, European, and East Asian people. And they therefore are not part of the white race. And why the US government has decided this, I don't really know. I don't think Central Asians or Middle Easterners are white and therefore shouldn't be in the census. I mean, included as white in the census. Okay, so moving on, you have black people or Africans. Nothing really too controversial here. Seems about right to me. Um, Next, moving on, we have Asian people. Now, as we all know, Asians are all just one big race. Am I right? I mean, you can totally tell that Turkish people, Chinese people, Russian people, Indian people, and Indonesian people are all the same race. So, now putting the so called white people in Asia aside, this is still a very problematic map. Indians and Japanese are not the same race, and it's just really stupid. Now, South Asians in particular are definitely not the same race as the rest of the so called Asian race here. Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Sri Lankans, etc., have completely different skin color, facial features, genetics, etc., and are definitely not the same race as Chinese people, Mongolian people, or Japanese people. Now, I would also say that, for example, Filipinos, Malaysians, and Indonesians are not the same race as the so called Asians either. Say, Southeast Asians are their own race as well, because they also have slightly different skin color, genetics, etc. But I will admit they do have a lot of similarities, so I won't go into too much detail about that. But yeah, this is really stupid. South Asians are definitely not the same race as the rest of Asians, and honestly, Asian is just such a dumb term for a race. I mean, even in Asia, you have so called white countries like Russia, Turkey, Iran, Kazakhstan, etc. So, shouldn't they also be included in Asian? Well, I don't know. Um, Now, moving on to Pacific Islander. I think also Pacific Islander is kind of a dumb name too because it's Pacific Islanders, but islands in the Pacific, but like Taiwan, Japan, the Philippines, Indonesia, etc., are not even included, not to even mention Australia and New Zealand, and therefore this is pretty dumb. But I think what they're trying to say by Pacific Islanders, Oceanian people, and I would agree, Oceanian people basically are a race, so they're not too far off with this, although I think they need to rename that to something more accurate. And finally, we move on to the dumbest one ever, Latino. So, despite the fact that Latin America is literally the most racially diverse place in the entire world, just for some reason the US government has decided to just put them all together as just one big race. Because we all know that European Latinos, African Latinos, Native American Latinos, and multiracial Latinos are all just the same race. After all, if a black person comes from Mexico, then they're not black anymore. They're Latino. If a white person comes from Argentina, then they're not white. They're Latino. If a Native American person comes from like Bolivia, then they're not white. I mean, they're not Native American. They're Latino. And so, yeah, this is just such a stupid racial classification on so many levels. So, another reason this is a huge problem is that lots of Latino slash Hispanic countries don't even have much to do with so called Latin America. So Brazil was colonized by Portugal, and Portugal is white according to the US Census. So that doesn't really make too much sense. And then what's a lot more dumb is the fact that countries where Africans are the majority, such as most of the Caribbean, including notably the Bahamas, Jamaica, and Haiti, for some reason those people aren't black, they're Latinos. Basically, everyone south of the US border is a Latino, no matter what race they are. And so, um, I've already gone into kind of detail in another video about dumb races, about just why Latino is just such a dumb word for race, or Hispanic, whichever one you want to use, because it's there really is no racial, um, yeah, there is no Latino race. I mean, Latinos come in all races and all skin colors, etc. And I think it's really sad that the most racially diverse place in the entire world is the place where everyone thinks they're all the same race. Guyanese people, Peruvian people, Brazilian people, Mexican people, Argentine people, they don't really look alike. I mean, if people did, if you just randomly looked at a Guyanese person, or okay, maybe more accurate Haitian person, you'd probably think that person's black. If you looked at an Argentine or Chilean person, chances are you'd probably call that person white. If you looked at a lot of Bolivian or Peruvian people, you'd probably call them Native Americans. And then I think a lot of the times what people mean by Latino are the multiracial Latino people who are kind of a mix of all three or even more. And obviously, then you have the problem that Spain, for some reason, even though the people are just as white as the rest of Europe, for some reason, Spanish people are not white. No, they're Latinos too. Um, and so, yeah, guys, that is the retarded American census and how they view race. Once again, Sudanese people are not white. Spanish people are white. Indian people are not the same race as Chinese people. And Latinos are not a race. So, yeah, I think the US has a lot to do in fixing its census. They should probably, um, distinguish South Asians from the rest of East Asia at least. Add a category for Middle Easterners, maybe Central Asians as well. Find a more accurate term for Pacific Islander. Definitely stop including Spain as a different race from the rest of Europe, and include countries south of the US not just as all one race, but be more distinguished. So include them as either white or black or Native American or just multiracial. That would be a lot better. Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next.